Hey, everybody. So I have a special guest on my show. His name is Tim. He's a good friend of mine, and he is a teacher at New York Insight for meditation. And he's told me about rewiring his brain using meditation and helping others do the same. So welcome to the show, Tim. So, Tim, can you tell me about a bit about the work that you do as a meditation teacher?
It's a great question. So, as a meditation teacher, I teach many different styles of meditation. So, I've learned many different styles from shamatha, which is calm abiding, like concentration practice, to like vipassana and insight. So, I started in the insight tradition. And then I
Hmm.
started getting into Chan meditation and other non-dual like Tibetan practices. So I have this like multi-pronged approach to meditation, and I come from a lineage like a pragmatic Dharma, which is like a very pragmatic approach to meditation and Buddha Dharma,
Mhm.
and learning from in a very eclectic way of different styles and not just beholden to one. And yeah, so I've been doing that, teaching New York Insight and then my own personal coaching practice. But I've also been teaching meditation and mindfulness specifically in the New York City public schools for the last 9 years and teaching students with autism, ADHD, students with various disabilities and teaching them mindfulness based strategies. And so I'm
Hmm.
also a trained occupational therapist. So I weave the occupational therapy and the sensory lens into mindfulness as well.
I think it's great that you are teaching those who certainly need help. What are some things that you could tell us about the effectiveness of meditation or mindfulness on the brain?
Yeah, so mindfulness, there's been a lot of studies to show that there's several certain ways that meditation and mindfulness actually changes the brain in positive ways. So, number one is the amygdala. So, it reduces amygdala activity. So, people that go through an 8 week mindfulness course versus folks that don't go through that intervention at all, at the end of the 8 weeks, the amygdala activation actually lowers. They're less reactive. So they're less reactive to potentially disturbing stimuli, like disturbing images or situations and things like that. Number two, mindfulness, which is a body-based mindfulness, which is like a somatic mindfulness, actually improves the insula, which is a part of the brain that senses body sensations. There's reported better body awareness, which can lead to things like intuition and like listening to the body, and
Hmm.
yeah, and emotional intelligence too. So that it leads to that. Another key way, there's a lot of different ways. There's just like the neuroscience is like it's just rapidly changing and like they're finding more and more things. But another way is prefrontal cortex, which is it improves the prefrontal cortex, which has great implications for people with ADHD and things with executive function deficits, which is like planning, shifting attention, and also initiating tasks. So meditation, when you're actually noticing your mind's lost in thought, and you bring it back to the anchor or the point of focus, which is like the object of attention, you're actually building concentration and the ability to like stabilize concentration.
Yeah,
So that's one way.
that's
Yeah.
really fascinating what you
Mhm.
said. So when I think about the amygdala, that's the emotional center of the mind, and it's involved in trauma. And it's
Mm.
great that to hear that your reaction to trauma could lower through the act of meditation, something that you could practice by yourself. I think
Mm.
that's really amazing. And I didn't know about the specific studies that show that improves sensory awareness. And I do know about the prefrontal cortex one, helps you to focus a lot better. So
Yeah.
wow, that's really great that that meditation is able to do these sort of things. So thanks for
Yeah.
sharing about the piece. This is
Yeah.
the fascinating thing about it is that meditation mindfulness is an ancient practice. So it's really cool that modern neuroscience could really back it up.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, in a big way. And I think that's a big reason why it's caught on in American culture and Western culture is like this proliferation of these studies have created trust in like the wellness industry, you could say. And it's been really fascinating to see.
I'm kind of curious about how you felt like it's affected your own mind.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I have a really scattered mind, and also I have dealt with depression and anxiety for much of my life. So that's why I turned to meditation. So like I feel like the benefits of meditation, there's no really boundary to what it can, how it can improve someone in some way or benefit someone in some way, whether it's depression or anxiety. Yeah, it really changed the way I viewed the world too. So there's this
Mm,
perspective change of seeing everything change and having this equanimity about it, like this acceptance of things that are changing. So I felt like that's where not only meditation, but Dharma, a Buddhist wisdom, with that combined, and really helped me deal with difficulty, like dealing with loss, dealing with identity, dealing with dealing
mhm,
with just normal depression and anxiety. And then now I'm finding that it's just super applicable to people with ADHD and to be able to work with an ADHD like mind and work with kind of, some people would like kind of be chastise this, but like talk about productivity and mindfulness. But it's because there's a cynical take. It was like, well, you're just trying to get people to pay attention and work harder and fit the capitalist system. But at the same time, people need to go to school and earn a living too. So I think it's
mhm.
a useful application. Yeah.
Yeah.
And understanding yourself too. And to understand oneself, understand one's
Mm,
own mind, own beliefs, own values. So that's another you really deep application for meditation and
wow.
mindfulness.
Yeah. Well, it's really cool that it covers many grounds. So everything from the deeply spiritual all the way to the practical and pragmatic world. So
Yeah.
it has many broad implications.
Yeah, exactly. How about you? How have has it benefited you and what's your practice like?
Well, I remember this one time it benefited me quite a lot. And what happened was that I used to live in New Jersey and I had a mind which could be rather obsessive. And sometimes I would, get into these negative thought loops as a result of the obsessiveness. I was living in New Jersey and I was going to attend an event in New York. So I took a train all the way there. It took me like maybe almost 2 hours. And then I got to the door and I realized I showed up on the wrong day. But I had a practice of mantra meditation. So on the way back, I was reciting mantra and I was actually in a state of pure bliss then. So it's all, as he says, all about perspective and how you see things. So that was like an incredible example for me of the power of mindfulness.
Oh, beautiful. That sounds awesome. Yeah, the pure bliss of yeah, that sounds really great. Yeah, they call those like that PT. That's like a blissful sensation from as a result of meditation, of deep concentration. That's
Wow.
awesome. And well, what's cool about that is like now, like there's these now the research is going into jhana meditation, which is like these deep, absorbed, very concentrated states that are not like mindfulness is kind of like a momentary concentration and like a little more superficial. But then jhana is like you really just narrow down and drill down on one thing, and and when you do that, they've found that there's like these different 9 different states, and PT is like that's like when wow, I'm getting some real momentum, like I'm feeling this blissful, energetic sensations in the body, and that has profound effects on people that want to have altered states. So that is a possibility too. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds incredible. So how do people do that? How did they get into such a deep state?
There's a lot there. There's kind of just a natural byproduct of being good at like stabilizing attention. So the type of attention you could use a mantra, you could use the feeling of the breath, whatever object you're on, you kind of just apply your attention and with the intention of staying there, but then also not like forcefully. It's just kind of concentrating and bearing down. It's not like a forceful thing. It's very
Hmm.
relaxed. And then eventually the mind just kind of settles into this rhythm and this groove and like almost like a flow state. And then it naturally just rises. And it can be
Wow.
really fun to like tinker with.
Yeah, that's really fascinating. I like how you describe it almost like you're playing with something. It's not something that is serious or you need to grasp onto really in a really rough kind of way. You just kind of gently, just something you gently practice.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really fascinating. Can you tell me about your work with Theravada and also Zen? Or is it
Yeah.
Theravada? How do you say it?
Theravada. Yeah. Theravada. Yes. So Theravada Buddhism is considered the first turning of Buddhism, and scholars consider that like the oldest tradition. So it's based on the Buddha's teachings and the suttas in the Pali canon. So Pali is
Mhm.
this old language, and a lot of the words have been transcribed from that language. So Theravada is more insight or Vipassana based. So it's based on like what we think of noting or noting sensations and seeing the impermanence, seeing the no self, and seeing the suffering in every moment to moment experience, which is really
Hmm.
interesting. And it's also based on the foundation of the Buddhist teachings. So they kind of build on each other. And then Chan, which came later and developed primarily in China and then spread across East Asia, so it went from India to East Asia. Theravada is more like Southeast Asia, migrated down there. So like Sri Lanka and Thailand and things like that. So and Chan is a little different because it's almost like a lot of it. It's like just a very open awareness, not speaking, not trying to describe anything. So Theravada is very like analytical and list based, like based on what the word Buddha said, and very intellectual. But Chan is a little different because it is about mindfulness and it is about the Buddhist teachings, but a lot of it's like pointing to non duality too. So, non
Hmm.
duality as an ideal. And so that's another distinction between Chan and Theravada. There's a lot of descriptions of a wordless quality to awareness and who you actually are. And another primary difference is like the different ideals that each have. So in Theravada Buddhism, it's the Arhat, which is like the fully enlightened being that who's typically a monk who renounces a lot of normal person's life. But then in Chan, in the Mahayana tradition, it's more the Bodhisattva is the ideal, who is someone that is in the community and is in lay life and vows to be enlightened, but helps everyone else too.
Ah. Hmm. So can you tell me more about, for instance, the Bodhisattva kind of idea and what makes you feel, how do you feel inspired by that ideal?
Yeah, that's a great question. Um, yeah, I'm inspired by it because I've learned that just living a life of service is really gratifying. It's super rewarding to like teach students, see growth, and just be in relationships too, and have a romantic relationship, and maybe do mind-altering substances. But as so that's why I like it because it's in the world, and that's why I gravitated to that as an ideal over Theravada, in which I is the Arhat is the ideal, which I think it's debatable, but it's possible in the lay life. But that's usually a model for monks and people that renounce things and don't work, renounce money, and renounce relationships, like romantic relationships anyway, and renounce drugs as well. So I realize that's really not the model for me, even though in the pragmatic Dharma lineage, there is a lot of trying to achieve arhatship through these stages and models. I've learned to let that go and learn to like just embrace like, hey, I'm in the world, and it's complicated, it's messy, but at the same time, I'm going to vow to help other people. So a bodhisattva vows to help other people too. So yeah, I just found that just makes more sense in my
Yeah.
situation.
I really appreciate hearing about your journey, Tim, in terms of your own personal journey with meditation and how you arrived at why you want to be able to follow this path through being inspired by the idea of the Bodhisattva. And it's great to see, like, you really carry out your work out in the real world and you're helping people out. Thank you
Oh,
so
thanks,
much
man. Yeah.
for, yeah, thank you so much, Tim, for
Likewise to you, and likewise to you as well. So thank you,
hmm?
Leon, for the work you do.